News Now.
Hello, welcome to Nerd News Now. Oh, it's just me and Kyle today. Kyle, how's it going?
Good, but you keep fading in and out.
Like fading in and out, how?
Like you got the wrong microphone chosen on your audio input settings, and every time you move your head.
Okay, let's see what's going on here.
And now Mark is gone completely because we can't even hear the background noise of Mark's house.
Oh.
Now you sound like you're in the room with me.
Okay. Did that do it?
Yes, that is the
Okay.
microphone you need.
Okay. Man, my computer did a mandatory restart and it's been weird ever since.
Yeah, that's why I bought external things that I just plug into my computer, and it's the only choice.
Well, the problem is my camera is external, so I'm using that, but I'm also using this Yeti mic that's in front of me.
Oh, right. So I bought an actual external mixer.
Oh, okay.
And disabled all the internal microphones and stuff on my computer.
So it controls.
So I only have
everything.
access to the mixer.
Okay. You want to do a hard restart real quick?
No.
No?
We're good. I narrated the whole you changing your microphone thing.
That's fine.
So
I mean,
that's as nerdy of a topic as we'll probably talk about.
Here's the thing. I tried to take for an elective coming up for my audience analytics masters. I tried to take art of podcasting from University of Florida next semester, but it's filled up. So now everyone else is going to know how to art a podcast better than me.
What do they call that? A bird course?
I
just fly right through it.
Here's the problem, Kyle, that I've realized, and like school, just like waking up to podcasts, school used to be much, much easier for me when I was not in my 40s. So here is the problem that I have found with school is that you are more at the mercy of the professor than the subject.
Right.
So you can have like the hardest sounding course of all time, and it could be easy depending on the professor and their interaction with you and all that, their understanding. Because again, once you get to that grad level, unless you were just like 22 and just wanted to keep going, you got other stuff going on besides school, and I think that they understand that for the most part.
Oh sure, but like the art of podcasting, like it's like buy a microphone.
I mean, I could just turn in.
Apparently all you need anymore to podcast. You don't need to know how to sound good, how to not sound like you're the guy on the other end of the phone line calling into a talk radio show. You don't need to know how to carry a topic. None of that. You just gotta. I can record audio and upload it to Stitcher. Yeah.
I mean, I could probably just turn in my semester long project as one of the 500 episodes I've done already before. But yeah.
Right. That's exactly it. It's like, hey, professor, I'm gonna just give you the login to my Libsyn. You tell me if I need to take this class or if you could just give me the A now.
I think the biggest problem for me would be if it was a course where it's like your assignment is to listen to one episode each of the top 5 podcasts out there, because I don't like murder or like
right. No, I'm not going to listen to the true crime podcast. It's not gonna happen.
I mean, and that
can all 5 podcasts be AEW unrestricted?
Right. But as far as I know, like all the top podcasts are true crime in some form or fashion, even if it's like rehashed.
Jack Shepard's Armchair Expert is up there.
Okay.
I know, and there's a few of those celebrity interview podcasts that are always up there. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is up there now. I don't know what the top 5 are, and it depends on the platform, right? The top 5 on Stitcher aren't the same as the top 5 on Spotify, aren't the same as the top 5 on Apple, aren't the same as the top 5 on Amazon, and now aren't the same as the top 5 on Audible.
Yeah.
So like, who knows? But I'll tell you, Mark, if I was taking that class, I would do the same thing for that class that I did for my history of American music class when I was in school. I walked in the first class and he hands me the syllabus and I go, oh, okay, I am so far above and beyond this class. This is going to be a waste of my time. So I brought the second class, I brought in my album, which was at the time was just an album of blues covers.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, here, I submit this as my final. And he goes, it's a written final. I go, listen to the record and tell me if I need to take the final. Third class, he goes, so you want a TA or what? Like,
Yeah.
Sure, I can teach the class, I guess.
Did you take him up on that offer? So you kept going, but you just did it in a different facility. Or
No,
facet?
I got paid. Like,
oh, okay. Well,
I kept going, and like I would teach the class one day a week.
but did you still get? But you got credit for the class.
Oh yeah, no, I
Okay.
tested out. Is technically on my transcript it says tested out.
I tested out of one class. It was college level Spanish because I had taken 3 Spanish up to level 3 Spanish in high school, and I was like, oh, I didn't know testing out was a thing, and then I was able to do it. So
In high school, I tested out of they called them Infotech at the time.
mhm.
So like as a freshman, you had to take Infotech, and it was Microsoft Word, typing, and that kind of stuff, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft PowerPoint. Right. And then as a sophomore, you had to take Infotech 2, which was Access and a few other programs they had at the time. And I tested out of the first one as a freshman into the second one. I told the teacher I don't know Access. So I took the quarter where they taught Access, and then I'm like, all right, can I test out of the rest of the year? And I did. And so as a freshman, I was in a networking class that was made up of juniors and seniors because that was the only place left for me to go. That was when I learned how to pirate music videos.
Well, I mean, as long as it worked out and you got your credits, that's all that matters. I mean, I'm sure if someone's going to test out, it's just going to be less papers for the teacher to grade. So they got to be happy about that too.
Right. No, that was the class where I got my first ever USB drive, like a flash drive. And it was just big enough that we could put the Float On video by the Modest Mouse video on it and pass it around the class. And you would have thought I was showing kids like the future.
Yeah.
Because I had the Float On video on this little stick, plug in your computer, double click, and it would play.
Yeah. I mean, I like Modest Mouse, so that would have been pretty awesome for me.
Right? Like now, like I've got something that's 70 billion times that size just plugged into my computer just all the time over here.
Yeah.
So
the short of it is, or the long of it is, I got to find another class to take in lieu of Art of Podcasting, which is sold out for next semester.
Can you take like a what was the class they used to offer at Bowling Green that I loved? A critical analysis of The Simpsons.
Yeah, there's been many philosophy in The Simpsons courses over the years, but I don't know if Florida has one, but I will look into that. I'm sure there's got to be some comic book related courses out there too somewhere. Well, but I just have a feeling they're hard.
Bowling Green State used to have a doctorate in pop culture that you could get.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I wasn't even enrolled full-time at the university. Like I was a part-time actually attending another university, but that university didn't offer the classes I needed. So I had to go to BG and take some. And so I would just go sit in on these pop culture classes. And I felt like I probably could have gotten a PhD in pop culture there if I would have just bothered to do the paperwork and enroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they did away with it.
Yeah. I was looking. Well, they still have a department of popular culture.
Right. Now it's just like a graduate level English degree.
Okay. I guess they also call it they also have a doctorate in American Culture Studies.
Yeah, but then you got to like actually know about the real world.
Oh man, I want to know about the real world. I'm trying to do that to escape. Last semester they had a pop culture and society, and that also filled up within like an hour. So, but I'm telling you, I've taken a couple courses where I thought, oh, this will be a cakewalk. It was not. It
No.
was not.
No.
So it's always just a guess. I guess we'll start with the sad news.
Wait, we didn't just
Last,
do 10 minutes on post-secondary education and pop culture?
I mean, we did.
There you go.
Right. But we'll shift gears. I mean, unless you want to talk about underwater basket weaving or something. But
I mean, I'd
yeah.
rather talk about that than dead people.
Well, okay. So you already knew where I was going with that, I guess.
Yeah.
But um, because we had talked about the fictional death of the comic book Superman last week for a while. Now, one of the most popular Batmans and definitely the most popular voice of Batman, Kevin Conroy, passed away at age 66 last week.
By the time Kevin Conroy died, I was kind of numb to it last week, so like doesn't even really count.
Okay.
Because early in the week we lost Kevin O'Neill, he co-created a lot of stuff with Alan Moore, including the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle of the week we lost Chris Bachalo, who was not sick for very long with ALS. And those were tough enough in a year where we've already lost, a mountain of legends.
Right.
And then, you add Kevin Conroy, who at least I knew had been ill. Right?
I was unaware. I didn't know he was ill.
I knew he had been ill. I don't remember if it was COVID or something to that effect. I just remember him having to cancel conventions because of an illness.
Okay. And he went to a lot of conventions too.
Right. So like I said, I don't remember if he was canceling because of COVID or something else, but I do, I know that was a thing. So it was a little more, at least in my estimation, expected, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't seem to come quite as out of nowhere as the other ones did.
Fair enough. The amazing thing about him to me always was that if you asked someone who their favorite Batman was, depending on their age, you had a very high percentage of them saying Kevin Conroy, regardless of animated or live action.
Right. A lot of people were making comments that he was the voice of their childhood, and I don't necessarily disagree. I didn't care for that Batman series nearly as much as other people did. And the voice of my childhood was either JR or Tony Schiavone, but certainly an important part of the sort of building of the universe that we exist in now.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, so like you said, when we look back at, next month and look at everyone we lost this year, it's been pretty bad for comics and popular culture. So I can understand being numb to it too, I think. It's just like, yeah, it gets to be a lot. Did you have a chance to see Wakanda Forever?
Nope.
Neither did I. And I want to. I'm going to. Made 180 million at the box office, so
that's like 170 million too much.
Okay.
I mean, we've gone around about this. You know how I feel about box office numbers,
right?
That's all that does is it doesn't actually say if a movie's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows how many people went to see it. And
go ahead.
And my thing is, especially with a movie like this, the number of people who went to see it is going to be vastly different than any other film where the goodness or badness of the movie will make a dictation. There are people who go to see Wakanda Forever just because it's a Black Panther movie, even if it's garbage. Even if the whole world was saying this is the worst movie ever made, this is worse than Birdpocalypse, which is the sequel to the terrible Birdemic, by the way. We're still going to go see it. So the box office numbers really are a misnomer, whereas something like Black Adam winning 3 weeks in a row has more to do with the fact that movie was decent, right?
Well, you could also argue that The Rock, it was a movie starring The Rock, and it was a movie that was from DC Comics. So,
right, but if it's a movie starring The Rock that's only okay, it's only gonna do okay for a while, right? Like the fact that it did 3 weeks had more to do with the quality of the movie. Then The Rock is only going to carry that movie one weekend. The DC Comics is probably only going to carry that movie that same weekend, right? If the movie had been garbage, it would not have gotten a good second or third weekend. And so with Black Panther, my argument is this: you're going to have 2 or 3, maybe even 4 weeks where it's going to be a top movie just on the title alone, regardless of what happens. When you get to that 5th week number, right? If it's still blowing everyone out of the water, that is a good time to use box office as an indicator of how good this movie is. Right? Like if it Titanic's people, right? It just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And now we're getting into the Christmas movie scene and it's crushing, all of these Christmas movies that people are looking forward to. That is going to be more indicative of how good the movie is rather than just first weekend box office.
All of these Christmas movies, you mean like the one Kyle's looking forward to with Ryan Reynolds?
The one that's only on Apple TV Plus?
Oh, okay. Well, see that? Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like there's always a rush.
I know what you mean.
Movie rush. So it's going to have real competition. And that's what I'm saying. If it's still steamrolling everybody, which I think it will be, everyone I've talked to has said it's been real good. So I think, but it's that 5 and 6 week number that to me is going to be the most indicative of how good the movie actually is.
But what do you think Ticket to Paradise is going to be making in its 5th or 6th week?
That's going to depend on how many Eddie Money references they make.
Oh, well, I don't know if they made any. We'll see.
Right?
I saw
if you make a movie called Ticket to Paradise and you don't reference Eddie Money, you've made
in fairness, it's just called Ticket to Paradise, not 2. Not 2 tickets. Maybe they're saving that
for the sequel?
As they're saving it for the sequel.
I'm just saying, if you don't reference him at all, you've made a mistake.
I just like how I read one review of it that was like, the romantic comedy is alive and well. And it's like, why? Because a couple people went to see a movie with Julia Roberts and George Clooney that has a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. I mean, I don't know.
I have Eddie Money stuck in my head now, and I'm angry about it.
Yeah. I just think, well, the one thing that I always look at when it comes to box office on Marvel movies, and then we can move on because I know you hate all this anyway, but is that everyone keeps saying, oh, the MCU's dead, this movie's terrible, it's going to be the first one to bomb or whatever. And it doesn't matter what, it's like insert blank here. Doesn't matter what movie. And then it hasn't. So we'll see. When a Marvel movie comes out and makes 8 million, then we might be like, oh, okay, I think this run's over. But see, you're measuring something different, right? Right.
When you talk about that. And that's a fair thing, because that is something that people talk about a lot is there's burnout on superhero movies? Is the trend over? All this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the first weekend box office on a movie. Now, again, I would say Black Panther is more of a cultural touch point for a certain segment of the population. So it maybe doesn't get the same through line as everybody else. If this was a Iron Man movie or a Scarlet Witch movie, right, I would tap into that a little harder. But it is a good way to judge, is their superhero movie burned out? Because we just got one 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
In Black Adam. So, like, if there was going to be an instance where DC had a shot at it to take Marvel down a peg or to show burnout, this would have been it.
Yeah. And also, if box office directly equated to how great a movie was, then the Roku movie Weird, starring Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al, would have made $20 trillion in a recession. Because that movie
should have made $20 trillion.
That movie is amazing. And also, I could also see how someone would hate it, right? Because if I let him into this movie going, hey, this movie's amazing, and they don't have like that Weird Al slash, let's name someone, doing this recently, like the Lonely Island Trio, who
Right.
two of them were in it, as Alice Cooper and Pee Wee Herman, hilariously, by the way, at the pool party.
Speaking
And
of,
then
Paul F. Tompkins was in it as Gallagher, who also died last week.
he did, and I had read, I did not realize kind of what was going on in the last 10 or 15 years or so of his career.
Oh, you mean like the
Yeah,
last 10 or 15 years of his life?
of his life. Well, yes, but I mean, he
You mean
never
after everybody
retired.
started calling him out for being a hack and a problem
Yeah,
person?
yeah, because I never knew that. I enjoy Mark Maron's podcast, but I haven't been listening to it since the beginning, and I never knew that episode existed.
Oh yeah, no, that
So
episode was hard to listen to.
I read the transcript of it, and it was pretty crazy.
Mhm.
Just an eventful interview, let's say.
Mark was a different person back then too, doing his interviews.
Yes.
I will say, he's certainly grown as a human since then.
Hmm.
But the thing about Gallagher is that he was always doing hacky jokes.
Yes.
But he was doing it at a time when that's what the culture needed.
Sure.
Right? It's like the Steve Miller Band, right? Steve Miller, maybe not the greatest songwriter to ever live, but at the time when Fly Like an Eagle hit, that was the kind of music the culture needed. Right? Gallagher was largely the same way. And I'll draw a direct correlation, right? Dave Chappelle. When Chappelle's show hit, that was the humor the culture needed. That is not the humor we need today. And so with Gallagher, what he was doing was good for the time. I call it Roseanne comedy, right? Where it's not the most well thought out or well intentioned or even groundbreaking comedy, but it's funny because it's relatable at the time.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. He was giving people an excuse to just blow off steam. And so for that, we can all appreciate what he did. But he was stealing jokes. He was being a number of phobes.
Hmm.
He was being a number of ists that are problematic when you look back on it. So, I was never a big Gallagher fan. I never thought he was funny. Even when I was little and you could see, like, they'd have him on primetime TV. I never thought he was funny. I was always a Carlin guy.
Well, okay.
It's always sad when someone who is a cultural touch point like that passes.
Sure.
Andrew, it'll be the same thing with Andrew Dice Clay, right? Like everyone can accept that Andrew Dice Clay is problematic and that Ford Fairlane is the worst comic book movie of all time. But Andrew Dice Clay was a cultural touch point. That kind of comedy. And so when he eventually passes, it'll be we'll be able to look back on it and say, well, yeah, but at that moment, that was very funny.
But you want to hear something really funny? Is when you said that, the reason I giggled is because somewhere in my brain, I got Andrew Dice Clay mixed up with Andrew WK, and I'm like, why is he giving Andrew WK that much emphasis for the party song? But also, it's a good song.
Also, Andrew WK has written a ton of hits for other bands, produced a ton of great records.
Yeah.
And actually has multiple hits overseas. So,
Okay. They're both a cultural touch point.
When we like to party, we will all party hard.
Yeah. I mean, I like Andrew WK.
Duck.
And also, you had mentioned, like at the time, the Chappelle Show being the humor that we needed. I don't know if you saw his monologue on SNL, but that guy, yeah, 15 minutes, perfect. Like, just no, I don't think anyone else can do that right now.
I didn't see it and I won't watch it.
Okay, fair enough.
Nothing to do with his comedy, actually. He just owes a friend of mine a lot of money.
Oh, okay. I mean, also fair enough. Like,
So you got to remember,
I'm
he
not
only lives 2.5 hours from me.
sure. I do remember that now. Yes.
And like the amount of money it cost my friends to not be able to open their businesses because he was having COVID comedy things at his farm.
Hmm.
Like, really, bro? Like, we're allowed to be open, but you've brought so many people to town we can't because it's unsafe. Like,
Yeah. Okay. And fair enough. Like, not and if anyone wanted to not partake in anything because of anything they felt, I'm not going to be the person to go, oh, but you should watch. That's fine. I'm
I
just putting
did
it
see
out
a
there.
sketch from the show
Yeah.
called Black Heaven
Uh huh.
that they had Mikey Day in, who is the whitest guy on the cast,
Hmm.
uh, playing a pimp. And they kept giving him lines that he definitely shouldn't have been saying.
Yeah.
And they just kept throwing to Dave Chappelle sitting there smoking a cigarette going, say it,
Hmm.
say it.
Yeah.
Like, that was very funny.
Yeah. But so all of that aside, so that's a lot. It's a lot. Like we put such there's such a we put such a heavy weight on being entertained, and especially now, like who entertains us and when and why and how. Uh, and that's definitely changed over the years. I think the way that we look at that. I mean, you have it's not really a movement, but like once I started hearing the phrase probably about 9 or 10 years ago or so, like separating the art from the artist, like some people agree with that, some people don't. And again, you could have like completely non-related convictions about, well, I just don't want to support this person because of this. But I think that it's always weighing on our mind. I mean, if you're someone who thinks, I guess, about that type of thing.
Well, for me, like the whole separate the art from the artist thing is really important because you look at someone like Warren Ellis in comics, who there was, I mean, what he is accused of having done and did is not a small thing. Like, it really isn't. But at the same time, that doesn't make Transmetropolitan less good of a comic book. Whereas with stand up and with musicians, with singers, it's harder to separate the art from the artist because it's a personal thing. If I'm a writer and I write a story, my story may still be very good. But it's as a singer, it's different. Now, am I saying that Billie Jean isn't a great song because Michael Jackson was a problematic human? No, I'm not. But it's harder for me, at least, with singers and with stand-ups, comedians, because so much of that is putting yourself on the page rather than just having an idea for a story and writing it down.
And while comics are visual mediums too, there's something to be said for having to look at the person, you know,
Right.
that did it. As far as like, because typically with hit songs, and especially back music video, into which you were going to see the person 100% of the time, or it would stand up the same way, like, oh, check out this person's delivery. Well, you're looking at them doing it, but comics can be summarized into words on a page, and that's not to simplify the medium. It's just that you're not having to look at that person tell you the story, like it's already on the page. So I can see that too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all I have for today. As far as what would you like? You got anything else?
Well, let's see. Next week in comics, not this week, not Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday, is the debut of Frank Miller Presents.
Okay.
So that's an interesting thing. I'll be honest, I've avoided the news. I've avoided, the comic book news, the pop culture news, because I know that those idiots can't avoid spoiling Black Panther.
Sure.
Like I just know that they can't, and because haven't gone to see it, and I probably won't get to see it until Saturday, I'm avoiding those sites. Which makes it hard to have stuff to talk about. But it's I'm excited I'm excited to go see it. I'm excited for some of the other things that are going into development and going into principal photography. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with things like the Barbarella film.
Okay.
The new Red Sonja movie.
Yeah.
Because they're not your traditional superhero movies, but they're comic book. And they're in a weird place that isn't underwear on the outside superheroes like Marvel and DC stuff. And that aren't The Boys, right? Or Invincible or The Walking Dead, where they're kind of in that same vein where it's, alt. They're characters that have been around a long time and everybody knows what they are, but they're more traditional. Red Sonja is more of a fantasy story and Barbarella is more of a sci-fi. So it'd be interesting to me to see how those go. Just because it's not what you expect. So,
and also that's probably going to cause some younger people to realize that Barbarella was a thing that existed, and then that's going to be interesting for them to go back and look at too.
Right. So here's one for you, and I just went to Hollywood Reporter. Yellowstone season 5 premiere breaks ratings record with 12.1 million viewers.
Okay, so in fairness, my next transition was going to be how many Yellowstone spinoffs do we need? And apparently we need 1 million because everyone loves that show.
Well, the one show, the 18 whatever it was, didn't do that great.
Right.
And there's another one planned that I don't know how it'll do. But here's my question. 12.1 million viewers. It's on Paramount Network and Paramount Plus.
Yes.
Not on a traditional cable network.
Correct.
Do you trust those numbers?
No, I don't know. I don't know if we. So again, full disclosure. Again, I'm taking the audience analytics courses to get a master's in communication with a focus in audience analytics. And some of we talk about big data, however you want to say it. I've heard it both ways all the time. And we talk about Nielsen measurements and how Nielsen had lost their credibility within the industry because they haven't figured out a way to keep up with all these different types of measurements on what they call this fragmented network now, right? Because you can watch a show on your phone just like you can watch it on a 72-inch screen. And guess what? They're not measuring how much enjoyment you get out of it or if you're paying attention to it. They are measuring things like watch through counts. So if I watch 25%, that gets, a check. If I watch 50% of a video, check 75, 100%. And we had, going way back and not way back, but in the history of streaming, when Netflix became a thing that most people had, they instituted that, how are you still watching? Netflix thing, and that was sort of a way to kind of measure like your interest, but we don't really have a lot of technology out there to measure your interest. I remember that ESPN tried an experiment 3 years ago where they were using micro targeting during college football games, and they knew what team you were going for because of all your social media posts, right? So let's say like you're an Alabama fan, Alabama wins. I'm going to try to sell Mark this thing that he likes because he's on a high, and I want to see if he buys this. Or and I'm not an Alabama fan, so I don't know why I use my own name, or if my team loses, then they're going to try to sell me my favorite candy because they know I like it when I don't feel good or whatever, and they're gonna try to console me with my favorite products. It worked to an extent, but I guess what I'm saying overall, back to your question, I'm getting off on a tangent, but no, I don't really trust those numbers because how do you know how many people are in the room? How do you know how many people actually watched it? How do you know how many people are going to want to watch the next episode? But however you slice it, I think it's still impressive because there's not a whole lot of shows right now where a lot of people are talking. And granted, the whole water cooler talk thing hasn't really been a thing since COVID, right? Because people aren't gathering in their offices and talking about shows anymore. Um, but I can tell you this: no one that I work with is ever talking about Yellowstone.
Well, so here's where this is why I asked the question. The Paramount Network drama delivered a cumulative viewership of 12.1 million live plus same day viewers.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest overnight launch yet for the Kevin Costner neo Western. Okay, according to Samba TV, which is one of the places that I go to look at these things, like they're relatively correct a lot of the time.
Okay.
Yellowstone is the top scripted series of 2022. Now, these are the actual numbers. 8.8 million viewers in the first airing on the Paramount Network. And then when you include simulcasts on CMT, TV Land, and Pop, you get 10.3. So, like 8.8 on the one network, 2 gets you the 9. So you're looking at 1.5 million people watching everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like a low number for a show that's drawing 8.8 on one network.
But I didn't know it was streamed on those other ones.
Sure, but it just seems like a low number.
Okay.
And then when you add additional encore telecasts, which they aired it 2 more times last night, 12.1 million. So it wasn't actually for the debut. It was just as a per episode watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was only 8.8 million for the debut on the premiering network. So to me, these numbers are, it's one of those things where where you say, well, 95% of people agree with me. 95% of what people?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, people named Kyle who are in this room right now.
Right.
Well, okay. Now you've made your rubric a certain way that makes it look higher, right? Like, so it's like, I don't know that they're giving us a real count, and that bothers me tremendously because it's saying that a show that, I'm not going to say Yellowstone isn't a good show. It's a good show. But it's saying that a show that may or may not be as good as they claim it to be is better than it was.
Sure.
Hi, Brainy.
Hey, guys.
Brainy, do you have an opinion on a thing you've not heard about that we've just been talking about for 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Yellowstone claims to have 12.1 million viewers last night for the season 5 premiere. But the way they got that number was the most antiquated conglomeration of, we got 50 people here and 25 people there, that I don't trust those numbers, and neither does Mark. How do you feel about when you're told a show did really well, but it's a show you don't know anybody who's watching?
Yeah, I wonder about that as well because I don't watch the show. I don't know anybody who does, but I keep hearing it's a great show. As far as their ratings are concerned, nowadays they've got better measurements than they did in the past, right? Nelson was like always estimating 1 for every 1,000 or whatever. Now they can get more accurate data. But at the same time, I don't know if I believe them saying 12 million people watching Yellowstone. That's kind of hard for me to believe.
Well, what they don't tell you is that it's spread out across 4 networks and that it's every not just the first airing, but it's all the other airings the other times they ran it last night. So
Yeah, which makes a big difference as well.
Right.
But at the same time, though, considering that none of us actually watch the shows when they're released, especially with all the binge watching, it kind of makes sense too, though.
Sure. The one other piece of news that I wanted to mention is that Jay Leno maybe needs to reevaluate his relationship with cars.
Oh, is that what happened? I heard about. I heard why he's in the hospital, but I haven't
Gas
heard
and
why
oil
yet.
fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was in his garage, so I'm assuming it's got to be about his car. So,
Mm-hmm.
has anybody seen pictures of how bad the damage is?
No.
No. Is this like in his garage that houses like 40 cars or whatever?
Oh yeah. Oh, so the one other news, Jennifer Aniston's dad, who, if you're a fan of daytime television, John Aniston, who was on Days of Our Lives for years, passed away today or yesterday.
Believe it or not, I did not know that was his daughter until I heard the news today.
I only did because I watched a documentary about Friends, and she mentioned growing up the child of an actor, and I'm like, wait, who? I thought maybe she was another one of Kurt Russell's kids. So,
and Kyle, just to wrap up your point about the kind of piecing together ratings, that's kind of what I was talking about, the audience fragmentation and why Nielsen had been getting so much flack the last few years. So it actually, whether or not that's accurate or true, I do think that's what advertisers want to hear. Like here's the numbers for Paramount app or whatever, or Paramount Network, but here's the actual numbers. Like they want to know the actual numbers, even if you're watching it, like I said, at the gym or on a tablet or on your phone. Like that's the new way of the future of advertising numbers. I mean, it's going to be fragmented. Now, we're never going to know is that accurate or true. And I guess there's also not a real way to, like you were just talking about with box office and movies, like there's not really a real way for us to know, well, X amount of people streamed it, so this has to be the best show ever, because like Brainy says Emily in Paris is the best show ever and it doesn't have the highest streaming. So, things like that.
Emily in Paris is the best show when it's on.
Well, okay.
I mean,
no audience fragmentation numbers there.
Right now, I have to say Andor is probably the best show on any network.
And Andor is going to be given the linear treatment. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not. That's news to me. That's great.
Well, they're going to take the first 2 episodes and air it on some of their networks and see how that works. To me, that means, like, 1, they have faith in the product, but 2, they're like, well, we made this and it maybe didn't get the numbers we wanted on streaming, so let's just throw it out there and see what happens.
It's a great experiment, especially since they control so many different television stations. So this is a great thing for Disney to test out, and it'll also give them an idea of how many people are not subscribed to Disney Plus that are fans on ABC. What are the channels they host? The regular
Absolutely.
Disney channel, whatever.
And if you haven't seen it yet and you don't have Disney Plus, that'll be over Thanksgiving. They're going to put that over the air. So, and that's going to be include effects and freeform.
Spoiler alert, I think he's going to die in the sequel.
Uh-oh. Wait, are we still talking about Emily in Paris? Oh, no.
There's no new Emily news. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Okay.
I know you're disappointed.
Well, that's why we brought you on. So
I'm good. I'm good. So no, I guess this is the part where we normally talk about books that are out this week.
Yeah.
Of course, I also haven't really looked at those. I was kind of explaining to Mark earlier that I've been avoiding the internet. I've been coding a new website for the experience, so I've been really kind of wrapped up in that. But I've been avoiding the internet because I know that the idiots on the internet can't avoid spoiling Black Panther for me, and I won't get to go see it until Saturday.
Surprisingly enough, I haven't seen any spoilers thus far. But I haven't been on social media that often today either. So
Right. Like it's me essentially right now working on that, rewatching The Big Bang Theory because I need background noise. And if I am consuming media, it's Letterkenny. Like I haven't even really been on TikTok that much. So
I feel like Letterkenny's safe. I feel like that's safe.
yeah, I don't feel like Letterkenny's gonna spoil Black Panther for me.
I don't think so. I think you'll be all right.
Maybe Shorzy, but
But I
not
will,
Letterkenny.
maybe. But you do have to avoid like all media, like newscast, news, anything. And some people might be avoiding that right now at this time of year anyway. But yeah,
well,
you're
traditional
making the right
news.
choice.
Traditional news right now is they're just stuck on the Arizona elections right now, so they're not doing
Sure.
too much talking of Black Panther. But yeah, I agree with you. Even shows like ours, right?
Yep.
Because we're going to spoil Black Panther and Andor for you.
Well, you spoiled Andor. We didn't say anything about Black Panther.
Sorry, I went and checked the Associated Press for something.
Okay.
The results still aren't in, Kyle.
No, it's not that. There was a shooting at the University of Virginia last night.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And there was just an alert. I've been following that story. There was just an alert, so I want to see what it was.
Okay.
All right. So, new books in stores. The Atonement Bell from Red 5 sounds super good. We had those people on to talk to Miss Jen. But Blade Vampire Nation one shot. Always good. Always a good time when we have Blade. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a good book, but I'm just glad they're making a Blade book. Like, it might be just good enough to get put in a bag and board and put in a box and never actually opened.
You mean it's going in my collection?
Let's see. But from my actual list, Gold Goblin #1 from Marvel. Door to Door, Night by Night from Vault looks very interesting. It's Cullen Bunn, so who, by the way, has like 9 books this week. But the other thing is on my list, new Resident Alien, Roach Mill #1 from It's Alive, Rogue State from Black Mask, Spark of Chaos from Comics Experience Publishing, and Chroma from Skybound.
Want to add to that Batman Spawn Classic Collection. So they re-release the original Batman Spawn in anticipation for the new series coming out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Titan Books 25th Anniversary Afro Samurai Remaster re-release.
I don't remember the original.
Yeah, it's like the 15th anniversary or whatever of the original Afro Samurai.
Man, it's been that long?
Something like that.
Wow, okay.
And there's one other trade I have, but I don't know if it's out this week or next. So I'm trying to look here. I don't see it listed, so it must be out next week.
Buffy 97 is coming out on trade this week, I believe.
It is. That's not on my list. But there's the one I was looking for. Eve Online, Capsular Chronicles from Dark Horse is out next week, as well as Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer trade paperback from Opus. So,
wow, what's up with my list? is everywhere today.
Oh, Mark, next week, something you're going to be interested in. I don't know who the
Okay.
publisher is. I'll try and find out here very quickly. The Illustrated Al, the songs of Weird Al Yankovic.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
illustrated by a bunch of different artists. Out next week. In comic shops probably not in comic shops near anyone, but you probably need to order it.
Speaking
So
of
is that like
Weird Al,
a specialized trade? Would that be a trade paperback probably?
Yeah, it's a trade.
Okay.
speaking of Weird Al, you guys are aware there's a new Netflix show that has Weird Al in it, right?
Not a Netflix show.
It's something about soccer. It's a children's animated show.
Oh, that show. Yes.
Yeah.
That he's voicing.
Well, he's in it. He stars in the cartoon.
Right, but it's his voice, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
No, he plays himself in the show. He plays Weird Al in the show. I
Right,
don't
but it's not like the Weird Al show where he was in it and occasionally Macho Man showed up.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It's not that one. Not as far as I'm aware of. It is really targeted towards kids. I tried watching it, and I think it's a movie. I'm not sure if it's a show. I think it's just a movie. I'm like 25 minutes into it, and I had to give it up. It was it didn't keep me entertained enough.
That's fair.
Have you seen Weird on Roku yet? We had also talked about that before you shut up.
No, I'll have to check that one out. Weird,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah, starring Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al.
Oh, I definitely got to check that one out. I didn't know that was released already.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I keep having to explain it to people what it is. It's like that movie was no good. I'm like, do you really understand what you were watching?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then isn't that your problem?
Yeah.
Come on now.
It's a parody of biopic. Just leave
Right.
it at that and enjoy it. Yeah.
Right.
The other new comic that caught my eye this week it's harkening back to the Batman animated series and what they were able to do with this character is the Batman One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze #1.
Yeah.
Kind of taking that idea of what Joker, talking about one bad day can turn you into a villain. This is Mr. Freeze's story. So that should be interesting. He's one of my favorite of Batman's rogue galleries. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, anything, Brainy, do you have anything you want to talk about? We have some time.
No, I don't know what you guys covered, so I'll be, jumping in on topics you may have already covered.
We talked about Andrew Dice Clay for a longer time than I think anyone expected us to.
I cannot believe I missed that one. Is he still a thing?
In as much as that he's still alive, yes.
Man, oh my God, that guy cracked me up in high school, man. I would listen to his tapes at that time over and over again.
Yeah.
Him and Sam Kinison.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sam.
Oh, Sam Kinison. Oh yeah.
We were talking about Gallagher.
Oh.
And that kind of came up, like comedians who are a cultural touch point. And so Gallagher and, again, I said, Andrew Dice Clay and Chappelle and those guys had their cultural touch point moments where they were just what we needed.
Yep. Well, I mean, if you're taking that topic on, you got to take on Lenny Bruce, Carol Burnett, and those guys were the pioneers of all of that.
By the way, I'm just going to put this out there. The best part of the Carol Burnett show was Tim Conway.
Okay.
Why do you think that?
Watch the elephant sketch.
Okay.
The thing about the Carol Burnett show is that they were all outstandingly funny. But Tim Conway would go out of his way to make the other actors break. To the point where often his co-stars were angry at him because they couldn't get through a show without them looking like Jimmy Fallon. Because he would do something. And so the most notorious is the elephant sketch. And live on the air, Carol Burnett says to Vicki Lawrence, who's playing Mama, "Is that little shit done?" After Tim Conway went on like a 20-minute improv story about an elephant, just making them all break. And the guest star that week was Dick Van Dyke, who fell off the end of the couch laughing. Like, it's... Trust me when I say the elephant sketch is one of the funniest things to ever happen on television.
I gotta watch that one. I mean, that show had a lot of talent. There was a lot of talent on that show.
And then what if I say, but Carol Burnett was the best part of Better Call Saul?
I wouldn't argue with that.
And there you go.
Wait, whoa! How did I miss her in that show?
Have you finished it yet?
No, I haven't watched the last season.
Season 6. Oh, you won't miss her. She's in 4 episodes.
All right. I guess I gotta look forward to that. I might have to go jump on AMC or whatever channel it's on.
Yeah.
I'll wait till it's on Netflix so I can watch it all at once.
It's pretty great. Anything else?
Nope, but I definitely am just about to send you guys the link for the elephant sketch.
Yeah, you know,
I have seen it, but I will gladly watch it again.
Right, you can
awesome.
never have seen it too many times.
Right.
You know, the problem is going to be I'm going to get hooked on it again, and then going to want to watch every single Carol Burnett episode again as well.
That's fine.
It's true.
That's fine. You got a while to wait for more Emily in Paris, so
It's true.
And Bridgerton, man, Bridgerton's taking its sweet time as well.
yeah.
And Ted Lasso season 3 just got delayed again.
Oh,
man.
Mythic Quest season 3 just started.
I know. I've already watched the first 2 episodes.
A little disappointing, wouldn't you say?
No.
I was disappointed. I don't know. Maybe the first 2 seasons hyped it up so much that I thought it was a little bit too slow.
No, it's more subtle, I think.
Sure.
In the whole, I can never find the bathroom. You're the one who wanted there to be no lines in the office.
I love that one.
Right? Like it's
Okay.
the roles are reversed.
Without giving anything away, how does she find that bathroom?
I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing it was just a broom closet, and she's like, "Well, it's too late."
I stopped that show after the bottle episode starring Jake Johnson and Kristen Milotti because I was like, "Well, this is it. It can't get better than this."
It does.
I just stopped. Okay, fair enough, but I stopped.
That episode was great, but
that episode was amazing.
It gets better.
Okay.
I also like the tribute they did. Again, without spoiling anything, the tribute they did in episode 1, season 3, that was pretty touching.
Especially because that guy's not dead.
See, I thought he was dead.
No, he's on White Lotus.
Well, that sucks.
He's dead to them.
Oh man. Okay, I'll check it out. But I'm gonna recheck out the elephant sketch first.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Brainy, for popping in, and thank you, Kyle. Thanks, you guys, as always, for being on Nerd News Now, part of the Kingdom of Geekdom on Woodlands Online, sponsored by The Adventure Begins Comics and Games and Space Cadets Collection. Check out other shows on Woodlands Online like Music Cafe, The Adventure Begins Show, Woodlands House and Home, The Best You, Between the Threes Business Talk, and much more. You can watch all these on Woodlands Online and on our partner station, KBQT HD21, over the air on your TV. All these shows and more on Roku. Just search and add Woodlands Online TV to your streaming lineup. And you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and Pandora. We'll see you next time on Nerd News Now.